Good day, folks. Welcome to Andrew's Life. I hope everyone's doing great today. Part two of Keep This in Mind Before Buying Real Estate. Now, I made a part one video yesterday. It did not do as well as I was hoping it would do. In fact, the views on that video were sad. I'm going to keep it real. However, for those of you that took the time to watch that part one, I'm going to keep my word and I'm going to do a part two. So, with that being said, let's talk about real estate again. Now, for those of you that are looking at purchasing a home, especially your first time home buyers out there, well, really any home buyer out there, I don't care if you're first time or you're looking to upsize, you're looking to downsize, I don't care who you are. One thing that I'm noticing more and more is, especially the houses that are, I'll just say, under $300,000. This is one thing I'm noticing about a lot of these houses. Either A, you're going to come across a house that needs literally everything under the sun done to it. It needs a full-blown renovation, but yet they still want, like this is house I'm getting ready to show you here real quick, that let me show you real quick and then we'll continue. All right, here's a house in Alexandria, Indiana. They're asking 60 grand. It comes on close to a quarter of an acre. In this area, it's not a bad neighborhood, but if you know the central Indiana market, you would know that 60 grand for this house is way too much money for reasons I'm going to show you right now. I'm not even going to read the ad to you. I'm just going to show you the pictures. Now, as you all can see, this house needs a complete renovation. I mean, it needs everything. As you all can see, it needs everything. It probably even needs a new roof too, for all we know. And they're asking $60,000 for this house that needs everything. It's got a two-car garage that's falling apart, so you're going to have to address the garage issue as well. So basically, this house is junk, but they still want 60 grand for it. See, that house, that's ridiculous. Now, that house is in Alexandria, Indiana, which, there's nothing special about that town. It's a small town, which is about an hour out, which is an hour north of Indianapolis. I mean, that house that I just showed you, it needs full renovations, and they're still asking 60 grand. And that's the type of crap that you see out here in the housing market right now in many parts of the country. Now, granted, if that house was somewhere more expensive, rather than a $60,000 price tag, you might see a $160,000 price tag. In fact, I've seen houses like that in central Tennessee that might be in, let's say, Lewisburg, and the price for a house that looks like that might be over $100,000. And another type of house that I see a lot are the houses that, yes, they're habitable. However, they still need a fair amount of work. And by the way, a lot of these houses that I see are generally owned by some LLC, whether it be a flipper or it be a landlord or it be an ex rental property that the company decided to renovate real quick to make it look nicer and then sell it for a higher price than what the property is actually worth. Because I see a lot of that stuff too. So there's a lot of properties out here that they may not be complete fixer-uppers, but the condition of the properties are relatively rough. I mean, you can tell that the tenant that was in that property tore it up, that did not take care of it worth the crap. The landlord was probably super negligent in the operation of their business. They did not look out after the property the way they should have. They neglected to do inspections. They neglected to do repairs. So you see a lot of those kind of properties that are floating around here too for way more than what they ought to be selling for. I'll give you guys an example. I've seen properties that, they look like dog crap. and they still want, almost $100,000 for it in Indiana. And if I can find an example, I will post it up real quick. Now this house is in Muncie, Indiana, Madison Street. Now this house is in a class. This house is in what I would consider to be a Class D neighborhood. And this house probably used to be a rental, but you can tell this house needs work. This is one of those houses that I'm talking about. It needs a new roof. You can tell that immediately. Well, maybe it doesn't. I don't know, but let's keep on looking. It does need work. Okay, they're showing off the yard, which the yard is not even all that big. Right across the street, you got a gas station, which I don't like living across in this neighborhood. I would not want to live across from a gas station. I'm just saying. You got a busted down sofa. The floors are in poor condition. The walls need paint. Some trim work done on the floors. You need floor work done. I mean, this house is looking kind of it's like crap. I don't know what this is. It looks like some piece of furniture that was left behind. Someone done drew on the wall, probably some children. Look how poor these floors are. Nasty carpet. You got old windows that probably need to be replaced. Man, you got a nasty bathtub and a shower, and it needs new tile. Hey, the kitchen cabinets look okay. The refrigerator, you're gonna want to clean that up or replace the entire refrigerator. Looks like with this house you might get a spare lot. So it looks like with the house you get a spare lot, which is a good thing. Maybe that's the reason why that person is purchasing this house because of that spare lot. But even though it came with that spare lot, me personally, I would not want to pay 59 grand for this house in this neighborhood. The lot size is not that big, but it looks like it comes with a spare lot. Yeah, see, previous rental needs complete renovation. That spare lot, even with that spare lot, in my humble opinion, the house is not worth 59 grand. I'm sorry, no way, not me, but to each his own. It does not make any mention about a spare lot nowhere in this advertisement, but I don't know. It don't really make a difference to me. I was just curious. Okay, this house sold in 2017, which was 9 years ago. It sold for 36,500. Okay, that's all I got to show you on that one. Another piece of real estate that I oftentimes see these days that are that's on the market for sale are houses that have been freshly renovated. Yes, you gotta love those freshly renovated properties. Well, I'm saying that with a lot of sarcasm, obviously. I can't stand a property that's been renovated. I hate them. I can't stand a flipper. I'm gonna be real. Yeah, I'm hating on flippers. I ain't gonna lie. And this is the reason why. The majority of flippers out here do not, when they flip these houses, they don't do it with integrity. A lot of times they use the lowest quality material. They hire the cheapest labor that they can find. A lot of times the work that they do is shoddy at best, is done wrong at worst. A lot of times the work they do is oftentimes not within the it's not within code. And then when the buyer purchases that flip, they end up having a gazillion different issues with the house. Like they might report having mold. They might report faulty plumbing, faulty electric, leaking gas lines. The roof is bad, and I mean, just all kinds of crazy shit. And then I can't tell you guys how many houses I've done looked at recently, and I can tell as soon as I walk in that the house was a flip. And they decided to take some garbage and, fix it up real quick and make it look nice, and then sell it back out for a premium price. So a house that probably should have been torn down or stripped down to the studs, they decided to half-ass renovate it and then sell it for a premium price. I can't tell you how many houses I've seen like that. In fact, there's a house that I used to own a few years ago. I lived in it for a few months and then I sold it because I left Indiana and I moved here to Alabama. And the house came up on the market this morning. So I went through, I looked at the pictures, and they stat and they I looked at the advertisement, and they stated how they renovated the kitchen and they did all this other type of work. And I'll give you an example of that. I'll show you the picture real quick and then we'll continue. All right, folks, I used to own this house a few years ago. They did a few renovations to it, which I think are half-ass. You'll see in a minute why I say that. Here's the basic information about this house. I mean, it does come on a nice sized lot. It is in a nice neighborhood, and the neighbors in that area are very nice people. So that's the plus side about this area if you were to buy this house. Now, for almost $100,000 asking, I will tell you right now that this house does not have central air. I would say the best renovations that they did to this house, at least from the pictures, are the floors. A lot of the other stuff they did, in my humble opinion, was half-ass. Okay, no cover for this light here. And if you take a close look at the cabinets, look at how crooked they are. That's Look how crooked they are. And then up on the top, rather than putting up actual cabinets, they just gave you I guess it's a few storage nooks, no actual cabinets. I mean, look at this. No cabinets, just a couple of storage nooks. Look how crooked all that is. And look at the ceiling. Look at that big gap in the ceiling. And then you look at this area in the back, that indicates that there's water that's still getting into the house due to how the ground outside is. Because, yeah, due to how the ground outside is, there's still water seeping into the foundation a little bit. Here's another room. No cover on the lights. No cover on these outlets. You have an older hot water heater. You have an older furnace. But yeah, in this day and age, in this current housing market, that's seem see, that's what some of these houses look like that they're asking almost 100 grand for. Now with that house, I used to own that house. I lived in it for a few months, and I don't know how many of you can tell by looking at the pictures, but the work that they did was shoddy as fuck. Like, you know, like I said, if you look at the ceiling, you can see the shoddy work they did when they came to fixing the ceiling. When it came to the kitchen renovation, I don't know I don't know who and what, why. I don't know who, what, where, why, and when. But that renovation that they did to the kitchen was super shoddy. It was super cheap. It was super low quality. It was super amateur. And sadly, those are the type of houses that oftentimes come up on the market for sale. Now, given that the majority of home buyers have to use a mortgage in order to purchase a house, sadly, you can't just, if you're using a mortgage, you can't just go and purchase, let's say, a fixer upper and hire your own people to do and make sure that the work is done correctly. Or if you're handy, you can't go buy a fixer upper and do the work yourself, because a lot of time, because most people, they don't have cash money to be able to do that. So therefore, if you're in the market to buy a house, most people, they got to utilize a mortgage of some sort. So a lot of times, when many people end up buying houses in this current market, they might end up with that house that I just showed you, the one I used to own a few years ago. They might buy something like that, something that's been just slapped together half-ass, and now they want almost $100,000 for it. So that's the type of stuff that, if you're looking at buying a house in this current market, you're going to be up against. In fact, I would even go as far as in the saying that the chances of you finding a house that has actually been well maintained and well cared for by an actual homeowner occupant, the chances of you finding a house that is not a flip, owned by a owned by a owner occupant, a house that has been well maintained, well cared for, well loved, for under $300,000, depending on what region of the country that you look in, is very slim. Because, like I said, the majority of the houses that you're going to run into in this current market are going to be either A, the house is going to get everything under the sun done to it. B, yes, the house is habitable, but it still needs a crap load of work done to it. Or C, the house is going to be a flip. It's going to look good. Everything's going to look good. Fresh paint, stainless steel shiny appliances, nice looking plank floors. But then when you move into the property and you start to utilize the property on a daily basis, that's when all the issues start to show up. That's when all the mold starts to show up. And sadly, those are the kind of houses that you're going to oftentimes run into in this market, in this market, most of you, or many of you at least. And of course, if that's not bad enough, I mean, unfortunately, there's a lot of realtors out here that are super desperate. I mean, I'm not even going to say desperate. There's a lot of shady, very dishonest realtors out here. I mean, granted, you got a few good realtors out here. Now, the realtor I work with up in Indiana, she's a very good realtor. But sadly, there's a lot of other realtors out here that are very dishonest. They're very shady. And they're the type of realtor that will get with their home inspector and they will make what I consider to be behind the door sweetheart deals, to where basically they'll, like like if you buy a house and you choose to hire a home inspector, which you should, your realtor will talk to your home inspector and, they'll have a little sweetheart conversation. And then your home inspector, either A, they're going to intentionally not inspect certain parts of the house, or B, if they choose to, they'll inspect it, they'll make mental notes. However, they're not going to communicate those issues with the potential buyer. So basically, the potential buyer is not going to get the entire truth about the house from the inspector. The inspector, in layman's terms, is going to lie by leaving out pieces of information that's critical for the buyer to make a decision. So sadly, that's going on right now. It's going on a lot. And you also have realtors that, they're just flat out good for nothing garbage realtors. They don't care about their clients at all. Like if you need that realtor to do anything for you, you got some of these realtors that they'll have every excuse under the sun to not do what they're supposed to do for you. The other day I was watching a YouTube video and it was a couple that was, I forgot what state they were in. No, they were in the state of Florida and they purchased a home. No, these are fellow YouTubers. Yeah. They're in the state of Florida and they purchased a home and and they didn't know until after closing that the house was in the HOA because, to make a long story short, their realtor did not inform them that the house was in the HOA. So you got that type of stuff going on. And for those that are looking at newer construction, I don't care if you're looking at lower end newer construction or you're looking at higher end newer construction. New houses, period, are garbage. So you got a lot of people out here buying new houses, and then pretty much immediately, as soon as they move in, they start having all kind of issues. Everything and anything that you can think of that could go wrong in a house tends to go wrong with new construction. So you got a lot of that going on as well. And there's even some houses that are occupied by owner occupants. And sometimes, for whatever reason, money might get a little low, and now they're in a situation to where they need to sell their house, and they need to sell it as quick as possible. So sometimes when it comes to making certain repairs, they'll hire the cheapest person that they can find, and they'll come out, they'll do half-ass work. They might even do it incorrectly. Now, there were a couple of minor issues with the house that I recently purchased in Indiana that was like that. Like the house I purchased in Indiana, the person who was in that house before, from what I've been told, they were having financial problems, and they also had a habit. So as a result, there were a lot of things in that house that was neglected. And so yeah, and there's quite a few houses like that are on the market right now. Which some of those houses, if they're bad enough, they may not qualify for a mortgage. So like I said, if I were you, for those of you looking to buy a house, especially you first timers, I would be patient, sit out the game for a while longer, and continue to wait. And you know what? Let me see what the interest rates are. I forgot to check that out before I began to record the video. What are the interest rates for real estate?
For U.S. mortgages in early February 2026, 30-year fixed loans are typically in the low to mid 6% range. 15-year fixed loans are generally in the mid 5% range, though rates can...
Okay, well, according to Google, interest rates then came down, I would say, a couple of points ever since a few months ago, so that's good. I was thinking the interest rates were still averaging 7 to 8%, but they've came down to 6, which some people would say that's still too much money, and it is way higher than the 2 to 3 and 4% like it was a few years ago. But 6%, in my humble opinion, it's not the best, but it's not shabby either. Like back when I was paying a mortgage, several years ago, my interest rate was 6%. So I don't think 6% is too shabby. But I would say anytime that you're buying a house during a market that's either busy or because right now, I would say for the most part, like if you're buying a house in the Midwest, the market's going to be busy. In other parts of the country, you're basically entering in the market at the tail end of the boom, which is still a bad time to buy a house. Even in areas where the market has been set to slow down, the prices right now are still way too high, in my humble opinion. So, I don't know, maybe the government might continue to lower the interest rates, and that might be their way to keep the housing prices high, hoping that more people will buy the house. Because rather than looking at the total amount that they're going to owe for the house, all they're going to care about is how much do I got to pay a month. So, I don't know. Maybe what I said at the beginning of maybe what I said at the beginning of the video about Donald Trump, maybe he's on something, I don't know. But interest rates are a little lower than what I thought, which I guess for those who are looking to buy, that's a good thing. Unfortunately, the housing prices are going to most likely remain high as a result. So for those of you that can hold out and wait for a little longer, maybe save up a little bit more money, if I were you, I would do that because I understand that a lot of you want to become homeowners. I get it. However, you don't want to buy a house that you are not able to afford. And then on top of that, it's going to fall apart because a lot of the houses that are out here currently for sale on the market are garbage. I mean, I would say unless you got, I would say if you're buying in the Midwest or the South, unless you have, unless you have over $200,000 to drop on a house, or if you're living in more expensive regions, unless you have maybe over $300,000 to drop on a house, the the majority of the houses that are on this market are garbage. They're junk. They're going to need a bunch of repairs, and as long as the market remains busy, as long as the inventory of houses for sale remain low, people are not going to be as willing to negotiate down to a reasonable price. And a lot of people are not going to be able to negotiate down to what would be considered a reasonable price because when they bought the house, they overpaid themselves. So now that they're trying to sell, they got to at least make enough to break even. That way, when they go to the closing table, they don't, they don't have to worry about taking money with them. So those are the issues that I feel many people looking to buy a house right now are going to face, which is why I would say if you can, hold off on buying a house until a later time. That's all I got for you guys. Stay blessed.